Anthony Hartwig here with another segment of what we call Living the Dream. We've been doing it all summer, and we have another very special guest. You might know her from Texas A&M, you might know her from Ole Miss, or she might be an old hometown hero for you. But wherever you know her from, Brooke Vestal joins us today. Brooke, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and talk about your softball journey.
I'm really excited.
So I want to start from the beginning before we talk about all the exciting things that you've been able to do as a college softball player. Let's start from just when you picked up the sport and when you found yourself kind of falling in love with this sport of softball.
So, we originally picked up softball because my mom played a little bit growing up, but most importantly, Little League softball was during the week and Little League soccer was during the weekends. So, my mom and dad did not want to lose out on the weekends. And then once I got to about 10, I picked up pitching and was good enough to make a travel ball team. And my parents ended up losing their weekends anyway. So that's how we got started. And I picked up pitching in Portland, Texas with Coach B, taught me the fundamentals, and is a big part of why I am where I am today. And then I moved to the Bombers when I was about when I was 11. I moved to the Bombers, and I was not ready to be a Bomber. I just wasn't good enough to compete at that level yet. So I moved to the Austin Stars, where I was able to get a ton of innings and perfect my pitches at that time. What I needed was innings. I needed to compete, and I got that opportunity with the Austin Stars as well as some really good coaching. And when I went back to the Bombers is when my recruiting process started.
If only your parents knew how many weekends they'd be giving up, right? How many
They
weekends
should
they
have
would
picked
lose,
soccer.
because they ended up losing a lot of weekends. I want to talk about pitching, picking up pitching at 10 years old. I know talking to a lot of pitchers, it's a craft, it's a science, it's something that you have to love, just the craft of pitching. So when you started picking it up, what was it about that position that made you kind of really enjoy it and made you want to work hard at becoming the best pitcher you could be?
So, first picking it up, I'm very tall, and I got very tall at a young age. So, I was pushed towards pitching. Hey, you have great long levers. Pitching could be something you'd be really good at. And I started working with Coach B, and honestly, she made it really fun. Every day, she had a new little tool for us to use, whether it was a spinner or a flapper, whatever it may be. So, I was excited to go to lessons and work with her and try these new things. And then the more I went to lessons, the better at pitching I became. And the reality is we all love to do things that we're good at. But you're
What
right, it is pitching's a lot of work and you do have to love it.
what was it like transitioning from softball is something that I love to do, it's fun, to then all of a sudden it's softball is something I want to put a lot of work into. Softball is something that I might be able to go to college in, and softball is something that I'm gonna not just love, obviously still love it, but love it enough to put that much work and time into it.
So when I moved to the Austin Stars, it was not a big organization. I think we had 114s, 116s, 118s. And I had coaches that I really loved and a team that I really loved. And I was just competing and having fun. We went to PGF when I was in the 7th grade. And that's when, at that time, coaches could recruit 7th graders. We could verbally commit in the 8th grade. So in 7th grade, when we were at PGF and all these coaches are watching, we were like, hey, maybe I do have a shot at this. Like, I have the opportunity to do something special here. And now I just got to work at it to make it happen.
Little seventh grade Brooke, seeing all those college coaches. I mean, was that an inspiration? Was that more pressure? How did you handle all of a sudden being that reality setting in that you can make a college career out of softball?
It was really exciting. Softball, we were a smaller team from Austin, Texas. I'd grown up playing softball in South Texas. Not many people went to huge universities at that time. So it had never really been something we'd thought about. And to see all those coaches and to see the response that I was getting, it was really exciting. It gave me something to work towards.
Let's talk about your specific recruiting process because I know everyone is different. Everyone has a different recruiting story. What was yours, and what did you go through before you decided to make Ole Miss your first home?
So I actually committed to Oklahoma in the 8th grade. So my recruiting process, my spring of 8th grade, I drove up to Oklahoma with my family and committed to be a Sooner. And for my recruiting process, I had picked out 5 schools that I had a lot of interest in, that I could see myself going to. I visited them, talked to the coaches, and I knew that Oklahoma was where I wanted to be. I honored that commitment and spent my first 3 years there. And sadly, it just didn't work out. I wasn't ready to pitch at that level. So I entered the portal hoping to find a place that I could go and compete at and take what I had learned at OU and impact another program on and off the field. Because it's a championship program. It's a championship culture. You have to have certain standards. And I was excited to take that to a new place. So I went through the recruiting process again through the transfer portal. And that's when Ole Miss reached out to me, and I connected immediately with Riker and Jamie, ended up committing there, and I spent 2 seasons at Ole Miss.
And then you go and you spend your last season of eligibility at Texas A&M, back home a little bit in your home state of Texas, still in the SEC, and you get to be a part of that program. What was that like to have one more year of eligibility and go spend it with the Aggies?
I didn't know if I was going to take my 6th year, so I ended up redshirting when I got to Oklahoma to develop more, learn from the pitchers above me. And my 2nd year was COVID, so I ended up with 2 extra years of eligibility. And I was far away from home for the first 5. It was a 7-hour drive to Norman, Oklahoma, and it was a 13-hour drive to Oxford. And I was ready to see my family. I have 2 sisters. My parents were all very close. So to be able to come back to Texas and, 1, be around my family, but 2, be a part of a year that was so special. We go to Supers. We compete with Texas, the number 1 seed. We proved a lot of people wrong and did special things. So I personally couldn't have asked for a better 6th year.
So let's talk about just your whole college experience as a whole, especially the start of it, because I want to talk about going from high school into college, where when you're that high school age, you're a big fish in a small pond. You can dominate a lot of high school batters, and then you go into, for you, Oklahoma. That's the biggest transition you could possibly go into. What was it like mentally trying to prepare for that, and what was how was the reality setting in that this was a whole different world of softball?
So in high school, I committed to Oklahoma in the 8th grade. I was the number 1 recruit. Everything was going about as well for me as it possibly could have. I wasn't used to failure. I wasn't used to being a teammate. I was used to being on the mound and striking people out. And I thought I was going to Oklahoma to be a 4-time American. I was going to lead us to a national championship. And I wasn't ready. And that was hard to admit, that I wasn't ready. It was hard to walk into Coach Gasso's office and say, I think I need to redshirt. I'm not ready to help our team, and I know there's a lot that I need to learn, and I need to get better before I can contribute to this program. That was hard, to look at yourself and realize that you aren't as good as you think. And that's hard. You've been, exactly like you said, you're a big fish in a little pond for so long, and that transition's hard. And you're also leaving the people that you're closest to, your friends, your family, your old teammates, your support system. You're going into a new situation that's already scary, and you don't have the people that are usually there for you to lean on. And I think that makes it really hard. And then you add softball into it, and going into a program like Oklahoma, where the standard is so high and there's a lot expected out of you, I think that redshirting was the best thing that I could have done for myself personally, because I was humbled. I was forced to be a teammate. I charted, I picked pitches. I learned how to contribute without ever stepping on the field.
I know there are players out there that wouldn't be able to be that self-reflective, and instead of doing what you did and have the conversation with Coach Gasso and, like you said, learning how to be a teammate, they might just have a mental breakdown, just decide that softball's not for them. Maybe they gas out, maybe they go to a really smaller college and just kind of spend their time there where they know they can dominate. What was it for you? Maybe it was your upbringing, maybe it was the coaches in the past. What made you so ready to be kind of self-evaluating and be able to have that conversation and say, hey, I'm just not ready and I want to get ready?
I'm really lucky with my support system. My dad actually played football at Baylor, and he had a very similar situation. He was the best quarterback coming out of Texas, commits to Baylor, gets there, and he did not earn a spot in his time there. And for him to have lived that, as terrible as it is, he was able to help me through my experience as well. So what he went through, he was able to communicate with me and be like, look, at the end of the day, if you can say that you worked as hard as you could and you learned and you grew, this experience is a win. But if you go into this situation and shut down or quit, not try very hard, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life.
And like you said, that's a championship locker room with a lot of championship mindsets that's instilled from as soon as you step into the dugout. When you went from Oklahoma to Ole Miss, how much did you see that championship mindset that you had coming from Oklahoma kind of affect their program and to be able to, like you said, impact the Ole Miss locker room and the impact the Ole Miss kind of mindset they were trying to establish there?
I think that, so in my red shirt, I got really lucky. Sydney Romero, Shay Knighton, Folly of You, Kylie Lundberg, we're all seniors. My first year at Oklahoma. Those are some of the best who have ever played our sport. Some of the best leaders, some of the best players. And I got to sit and watch how they led. And I got to learn from them. And Kylie Lundberg is not a name that you will hear very often from Oklahoma softball. But what you don't know is that Kylie Lundberg was picking pitches. Other opposing coaches hated her. She knew when bunts were coming, change-ups, and to see that, I was like, okay, Kylie is who I want to be like. So I took that to Ole Miss, and I think at first they were a little confused by me. A big thing at Oklahoma is Coach Gasso loves communication. So when we're doing defense at practice, everyone's communicating. Hey, plays at 2, I got you here. There's constant chatter. And I got to Ole Miss, and I'm in the dugout constantly chattering. Everyone's like, what is this girl doing? Shut up over there. And then slowly more people started joining. And before you know it, we're cheering, having a good time, communicating with the pitchers. I think it's important for pitchers to be involved in the team because we are so separated. It's 2 different jobs. So it's important to me to be around the team as much as you can at practice. And most of the time that's moving buckets, that's shagging balls. So at first I got to Ole Miss and started doing these things, and slowly but surely the other pitchers were joining me as well. And it was just little things like that. I was like, okay, whether I pitch or not, I am helping this program. And my last year at Ole Miss, I was actually voted to Leadership Council, which was really exciting, just to know that what I was doing was paying off and it was impacting our team and appreciated.
I want to talk about the relationships that you built with the other pitchers at these places you were at, because when I watch college softball, I love watching the pitching staffs because they become such a close-knit group. Like you said, a little bit separated from the team. So those are the people that you spend the most time with are your fellow pitchers. What was it like being able to do that with 3 separate programs and 3 separate staffs and to be able to build relationships with so many people?
It was really cool. Pitching's hard. One person pitches at a time. There's 5 to 8 of us on a team and only one pitches. And when you're a part of a staff that really buys in and buys into your team, buys into each other and the success of the group rather than the success of yourself, it's really special. And I think that we created that this year at A&M. We were super close, group chat, we'd have bowling nights. So it was a really special experience all of my years, but especially this past one. We were a small staff of 4, and it was us against the world. No matter who was on the mound, we celebrated each other's successes like they were our own.
Yeah, you talked about, the run that you guys had this year, going to supers and really pushing Texas to the ultimate brink that you possibly could. What was the whole season this year like at Texas A&M when you're a program that maybe not a lot of people expect a ton from, and then you were able to not just do as well as you did, but then go and make a really good run, exciting run into the tournament? What was it like to go through all that?
It was just the mentality of like, no one likes us but us. And that's okay. Now we just got to go out there and do what we know we can do. And by the end of the season, we were playing at the level that we knew we could play at all year. So it's just about ignoring the outside noise and focusing on Texas A&M softball. And I think our staff does a really good job of that, of keeping us focused on our dugout and not outside noise.
That being said, I think, and this might rub people the wrong way, but I think Texas A&M has one of the best fan bases in any softball program in the country. What's it like to be a part of that hoopla and to be able to play, in College Station with the 12th man at your games and to be able to have that kind of support?
It's amazing to have them all there through the whole game. So one, they're cheering the whole time. A&M baseball started the ball five, and softball's picked that up. So now the whole stands are cheering, chanting. Sometimes we get the yell leaders out there to get the crowd going, and there's nothing like playing against whoever it may be and hearing "beat the hell out of." You're like, yeah. So the environment itself is just really exciting. And then at the end of the game, we sing the war hymn. Everyone's linked up, and it's just, you have to be a part of it to understand it.
When you go to programs like that, and I'm sure Ole Miss and Oklahoma are the same way, where you have tradition there, you have plenty of players that have come before you that have made that program great. Do you get to kind of, how involved do you see the alumni? I mean, do you get to meet some of the players that have been there before, and do you get to kind of feel that support of the people that have built the tradition there?
100%. We had an alumni weekend this past fall, and we played a game, and the alumni were there. We had a huge turnout. Like, people from the 86 and 87 national championships came back. We honored them. They told us stories. They told us what it means to them to be an Aggie, not just a softball player, but an Aggie in general. And I ended up meeting Amanda Scarborough and Jamie Lopre, who have been just amazing. I want to get more involved in softball with Alliance, with Bombers, doing camps. And both Jamie and Amanda have been incredible.
So now I want to bring this back full circle and talk to the high school players that we're going to be covering and that we're talking to. What were some lessons that you learned, especially through your college career, that you think you kind of wish you would have known before you stepped on campus at Oklahoma that first year, that now because you've gone through it? What were some things that you're like, man, if I knew that back when I was 18 going onto a college campus, things might have been a little bit different?
I like this question. What I wish I would have known. The first thing that I wish I would have known is that comparison is the thief of all joy. And my journey will never look like someone else's. So why would I compare it to them? Because sitting there and picking yourself, well, she's doing this and she committed and she's pitching, you're going to drive yourself crazy. I wish I would have known at 18 to not be so worried about the outside, what people were saying about me, what was being posted, being so wrapped up in what everyone else had to say about me, instead of realizing, like, I can do this. I got this. Having confidence in myself and the work that I had put into it. So the first thing would be focus on your own journey. Don't worry about other people, because things are going to work out. The second thing, I just think the last 6 years being a teammate to me was so important, and building relationships with my teammates. My other advice would be buy into your team. Get to know them. When you show up on campus as an 18-year-old freshman, it is so easy to hide with the other freshmen, to just stay with them, not making waves. No, I wish I would have known, like, go up to Jocelyn and be like, hey, you want to go get coffee later? Hey, you want to go hit in the cages later? Building those relationships with upperclassmen who, one, have been there so they can help you through this, but two, now you're just building a better culture for your team. I think that is really important. So that would be my advice.
when you look back on the way that you committed early, and I know people can't commit as early as you anymore, but we have some players that we're covering that committed like right out of their summer going into their junior year as early as you can now. How did you kind of stave off the idea that I'm committed now, so I don't have to work anymore? I got this locked down. I'm just going to cruise through the rest of my high school career, and when I get to Norman for you, I'm going to be, just where I am. Like, how did you kind of keep working, stay motivated after you were already committed and you knew where you were going?
When you watch that program play and you see them in super regionals and the World Series and winning the World Series and you hear the interviews, you want to be there. You want to get there and compete and help the team in any way that you can. And if you're not working, you're not going to do that. So the motivation is watching the program, seeing their successes, and going, that's what I want. I want to be a part of that. And in order to be a part of that, I got to work.
I've asked every player that I've brought on this, and it's always fun to get these answers. What was your welcome to college softball moment where you realized really quickly that the reality hit you? This is a different world.
My welcome to college softball moment. Coach Gasso scheduled a cooking class for everyone, and I rode with the other freshmen. And let's say it was supposed to be at 5 o'clock. We got there at 4:59. Everyone's already seated. We are the last people there. All eyes whip to the door, and my heart just sinks. And I think that's the end of it. And then the next day, I threw a great bullpen. I'm excited. And Coach Gasso said, hey, all the freshmen are going to take these rags and wipe down the pads along the stadium. I was like, oh my goodness, I've already made Coach Gasso mad. We were late, but we weren't late. So I figured out right then and there, on time's late. And that was the moment for me that I realized, okay, this is real now.
All right, so before we let you go, one of the things that I want to do at the end of these is just like the final advice that you give to youth softball players. I know you're working with them, you want to keep working with them. What are some things that you tell them to keep doing to try to achieve their dreams and to make their dreams a reality?
I would say that at this age, when you're getting recruited, you're about 16, 17. And at that age, everyone can throw and catch and hit and run. You're starting to figure the game out. What sets you apart from the others? Are you a great communicator? Do you get your bunts down? Do you miss signs? There are things that you can do to set yourself apart that have nothing to do with how many home runs that you hit. How do you control the field? How do you communicate with your teammates? What do you like as a person? How are you going to set yourself apart at this stage in the game? And understanding what you are really good at. Not trying to be someone else. What you're good at, buying into that, and accepting your role.
One of the things we also always do with these player interviews, no matter what level we're interviewing, we always want to give the athlete the chance to take the limelight off themselves a little bit and shine it on the people that have got them to where they are. And I know your village is really big, and I'm sure you've had a lot of people get you to where you are. So I want to give you as much time as you need to talk about the people that got you there and talk about your support system and give them the flowers, the limelight, and the shout outs that they deserve.
You're right. There are a ton of people. Obviously, my family has done so much for me. Like I mentioned, my dad earlier has helped me through this process, has been there every step of the way. My mom, same thing, is always there when I need her. So many coaches, lots of coaches out there. Tony Rico, Riker Chasen, Placido. All of my coaches have played a part, but I think my thank you right now is to my 16U team because they've just reinvigorated how I feel about this game, and helping them achieve their dreams is very special to me. So I just want to say thank you to them for reigniting my love for this.
Brooke, we want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us and getting your story out there, your journey out there. We know that players that hear it are going to be inspired by it and take your advice. And we want to thank you for helping the next generation of softball players. Wish you the best of luck in whatever your future endeavors are, whatever you're going to do. I know it's going to be great. Once again, we thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.